Howdy. Welcome to the May 13th, 2026 Save the Rich edition. Before going into why we have to save the rich, I first have to do some corrections from just yesterday. I guess it's closer to 600,000 people who bought Trump phones. So there are 600,000 disgruntled Trump supporters out there. I don't know why I like that fact, but the more the merrier. Yay. Uh, and I mentioned yesterday that Trump floated the idea of dropping the federal gas tax. Senator Leader Thune killed that idea. He said it's important for the Highway Trust Fund, and so he has already killed it, which the last time the gas tax was raised was 1993, and it was opposed by then Republican Senate Leader Bob Dole. And we wonder why our roads are not in better condition. No tax increase since 1993. Yeah. I want to do a couple of birthday and anniversary announcements. Happy anniversary to Sandy and James. This May 13th, well, sorry, Aunt Sandy, I'm going to age your anniversary, so happy 31st anniversary. This May 13th, 1995 wedding between her and James kicked off my year of weddings. 17 weddings in 1 year. That was a lot of weddings that year. And a happy birthday to my friend Travis. Travis is a friend of mine from Co. Um, and he's seen here when he visited me with we're at what's called Snoopy Rock, which you can barely see behind me, is Snoopy lying on his back. That's why it's called Snoopy Rock. We went snorkeling there with my friends Anna and Muhammad. To put it all together, this is a mini co-reunion that we had a couple years ago in Minneapolis, where I'm there with Travis and Sandy and two other co-friends, Thomas and Kelly. Wonderful. I do love my Cohawk friends. Also, happy birthday to my friend Luke Munn. Here we are seeing before we went go-karting. He didn't have his driver's license, so this is like pretty much his first time ever driving was when he was a go-kart, and he was really good. So good for him. And then this is a very sad picture for me because this is Lukman, me, and his older brother Adnan in January 2020. The reason it's a sad picture is that this is just before I'm flying off to go caucus for Mayor Pete in the 2020 Iowa caucuses. Adnan, before I got back, Adnan was flying to America to move to America because his fiance wife lived in New York City. And so this is the last time that all three of us were together. And so I just, this picture just makes me sad. But by the way, Luke Munn's now in Hong Kong doing well, and Adnan in New York doing well. So yay, it's all good. To some news. The Wall Street Journal announced about that the UAE has been secretly attacking on Iran. The news today is that Saudi Arabia has also been doing some attacks on Iran. Why are we getting that? Okay, sorry for errant slides in there. After on late Mother's Day night, the president sent 55 absolutely unhinged, I guess on Truth Social, they're called bleats. Anyhow, Trump says he needs no help from Xi, and the good news is Trump may not realize that he needs help from Xi, but Xi realizes that Trump needs help. And so he's going to get some help on Iran, whether he likes it or not. And America's standing is going to fall all the farther. More bad news for the UAE that airlines have decided to pull out of Dubai, and for good reason. The cost of fuel, airline fuel, has just absolutely skyrocketed around the world. Not so much in the US, but around the world it certainly has. And because of the war, the flight path to fly into the Middle East now adds an extra hour and a half to most flights if you're coming from Europe. So it's not a surprise at all that airlines are deciding to pull out. And it's not surprising that the Asia airlines are deciding to pull out because they are really running out of fuel. So, yeah. Now, on to what today's video is supposed to be about. There's a trial going on where Musk is trying to sue to regain control of OpenAI. He's just unhappy. And now that the trial is about wrapping up and Musk is absolutely going to lose by all accounts of everybody following the trial, here's what we've learned, that everything you ask artificial intelligence is discoverable. So just as your search history can go into they catch a murderer because they find in his search history that he was searching places to bury a body. Well, your conversations you have with AI are also discoverable. And why I call this the Satya Nadella clause is that the one person whose artificial intelligence was not discovered was Satya Nadella, but he referenced many times in conversations with all these different billionaires that I point of this show, that he was asking Copilot, Microsoft's AI. But since Microsoft wasn't really part of the trial specifically, they did not subpoena and get his information. But in the future, if there's a lawsuit against Microsoft, you can better believe it will be used against him there. We learned that Musk is every bit as egocentric, narcissistic, and arrogant as we thought he was. And the big lesson from this is that if you're screwing up an investment and you get upset that you missed out on that investment, suing later because you have sour grapes, really, really dumb. Now, don't feel sorry for Elon Musk because he has an IPO coming up here shortly that was going to make him go from not only the world's richest man, but the world's richest man times three, perhaps, depending on how well the IPO goes. SpaceX, just to give some sense of how big SpaceX is, that 10,262 satellites that are in orbit. I'm old enough that when I was a child, World Book Encyclopedia had a list of all of the satellites that were in orbit, and it took about a page and a half listing all those satellites. Think about that. So what? 50 satellites in orbit when I was a child? Now, SpaceX alone has 10,262 flying above us. Wow. And I just love this visual graphic. Again, SpaceX is so big in terms of satellites in orbit, almost twice that of everyone else combined. I'll tie it back to billionaires in a minute. Just give me a minute. We also received some news yesterday that the CPI has shown that inflation went up 3.8%. We received the PCE number last week that already showed it was even higher than that, but okay. Anyhow, and the really bad news about this is the fact that it is now officially outpacing wages. Now, one of the running themes when I talk about economics is that almost everything in economics has a lag effect. Anyone watching this from America has to know that prices are going up faster than wages. You have to know that. But finally, you have data to prove, you've been right. It's all true. Another stat that's really disturbing is this, that shows that from 1993, what you're seeing here is from 1993 to 2023, that now the top 1% have greater wealth than everybody from 20% up to 80%. So the top 1% now have greater wealth than the entire middle class. Wow. Yeah. So we continue with more policies that help the rich and screw the middle class. Which brings me to something I'm actually sad about. So Mayor Mamdani came up with a proposal to close a $4 billion shortfall in New York City's budget. And so one of the ideas he had was to increase the property tax. And of course, that's going to be unpopular because raising property taxes is never popular. And so the governor of New York swooped in and is allowing the taxpayers of New York to cover the shortfall instead. So I can understand why people who don't live in New York City are not happy about that, but so it goes. What has me sad about that? I'm not sad that the property tax on lower way. I'm not sad about the middle income property tax going away. I am sad about the soak the rich, as they call it, tax going away. His idea was to tax people who have a second home. A gnat just flew in my mouth and it went down my throat. I'm not redoing this whole video for that. That's my dedication to you. But give me a second. Protein. What I'm sad about is that taxing homes, his proposal was quite simply to, if you have a second home in New York, so New York is not your primary residence, you live somewhere else, but you want to have a nice place in Manhattan, and that place happens to be valued at more than $5 million, you're going to have to pay an extra 10% property tax. Of all the ideas out there that supposedly soak the rich, this is one I get behind. Um, you know, New York is for the ultra rich, New York is the place you want to live, and specifically Manhattan is the place you want to live. And you want to at least have a home, maybe not live there permanently. And so, yeah, making them pay a little bit more, yeah, that's a pretty good idea to me. Number one. Number two, because there are many people who are like, oh, this will just scare the rich away from New York. Okay, so sell your second home in New York worth $10 million. It's going to take somebody incredibly rich to buy it, and then they will pay the property tax. And hopefully it's someone who actually lives in New York. And so then it also makes the housing crisis in New York City go down a little bit because you're going to have somebody actually living in the building. The really disturbing thing for a lot of people who live in New York City, and I have several friends who do live there, and they talk about this. The number of places that the lights are out 10 months out of the year. In other words, it is their second home and but they are just not there for almost all of the year. Meanwhile, I also have some friends who are not worth an insane amount of money, and they're like, eek, it's incredibly expensive to live in Manhattan. And of course, my adopted son Adnan living out in Queens. I'm sure he would also love to see prices go down, and I'm glad that his property tax has not gone up. But there is a reason to believe that there should be some way that we can make our tax system a bit more fair for those who are not making millions of dollars or do not have millions and or billions of dollars in wealth. Is that hard? Is it that outrageous to say that maybe it's a good idea to not put all the tax burden on wage earning people? I hope you have a good day. I know this is a long one. I'm going to go drink something more because I don't like the fact I have a gnat in my stomach. Bye.